This week's scenario is the Pit 2 from the 2017 Steamroller packet. This scenario does have the Killbox Artifice in effect, and consists of one circular zone which can be controlled by warrior units, warcasters, and warlocks, two rectangular zones which can be controlled by warjacks, warbeasts, battle engines, warcasters, and warlocks, and then objectives which can be destroyed for 1 CP. Victory conditions consist of earning 5 more control points than your opponent, or caster assassination.
Greetings, this is Iron Lich W, and this time I decided to bring Goreshade 3 with the Ghost Fleet theme. One reason I decided to use Goreshade is I like Goreshade in this theme in that he can help the recursion go from very good to even better because he's got Mockery of Life, and that can help me survive through attrition. Plus, I enjoy his feat, and so one thing I like to do is run the Ghost Raiders up there, pop feet, try and stationary opponents' casters, and then have the Kraken shoot them to death, and I even got a few more of the Rifleman painted up, giving me the option to shoot him with more things.
Okay, Warmachine is here, and you're looking at my Abbey 2 list. This is what I pair with Fiona 2 in this little scramble we're doing. I had the poor fortune for Legion really to find a Ghost Fleet list waiting in round 2. But we're going to do what we can. I really do enjoy this list. It's one of my favorite things that I've played so far in Legion. I like the way it lets your heavies really get out ahead of stuff. Never mind the one-winged Afflictor. I've since replaced him with a second unit of bees when I've redefined this list a little bit. But it's a nice thing to play because if you can proc off Alpha Hunter, you can really do some really fun and get your beasts into places they probably shouldn't be able to get to. So it's a real good fun list to play. It's fast, and it's probably the only chance I have is to try to do something quick and early against this Ghost Fleet list. So hopefully I'll do some Legion players proud, and we'll have a good time tonight.
Cryx turn 1. It's a very basic approach. Essentially, the majority of my army is going to run. It's just figuring out how I want to impact my army. I don't normally do the apparition move for the Ghost Raiders on turn 1 because I like to try and keep it in my back pocket. Hopefully my opponent forgets they have it and kind of extends their threat range later in the game. So I generally wait until turns 2 or 3 before I start doing their apparition moves. Anyhow, first things first is I want to move Goreshade out, and because I don't have an arc node, which is why I do want to get him in a position to where if I need to, I can charge him up the board for his spells. But I go ahead and put Occultation on himself, even though it's Legion, just for the fun of it, as well as Infernal Machine on the Kraken. Then I get to work trying to unpack my army. So I know my opponent's got a very long threat range just because it's Abbey 2. I was about to say Abbey, but they kind of stopped that terminology now. But once I have the left side undone, I go ahead and run the Kraken out in front of Goreshade because I generally try not to leave open charge lanes to my casters available. Then I run the Black Fleet, not the Ghost Raiders, up to the middle. So given where the train is this time, I'm thinking I'm going to try and get the Ghost Raiders right on the other side of the forest. That way if my opponent moves up close to them, I can go ahead and run the Ghost Raiders through the forest next to his caster, the Warlock, pop feet, and have the Kraken walk into the forest. That way he can see through it and then see everything past it and shoot. Another thing I'm trying to think of is positioning for the Rifleman, because I just got newly painted. I don't have a whole experience with more than a couple of them, so figuring out where to put them did cause me some trouble.
Alright, so Legion turn 1. So not only is it a tough matchup to even try to play into Ghost Fleet with Legion, it's a little bit even tougher matchup if the Ghost Fleet list goes first. So we're looking at some things we got to overcome here, but we're going to see what we can do. One of the things I like about the side of the board I'm on is I have the unit of bees, so that swarm can get up behind that forest in the middle. And because they're considered a unit, they get the apparition ability in oracles. And what I'll do with that is, if I get him up behind the forest, he doesn't have line of sight to him. Of course, Ghost Fleet does. But if he doesn't have line of sight to him, then I can turn around and apparate into the forest, and they'll be able to see their charges. So that's kind of why I picked this side of the board. Didn't really think that there was a whole lot of advantage for picking a side. Normally a trench would be pretty good, except for the whole ignore cover thing. So right now I'm kind of looking at where can he get to running and where can he jam me. I need to decide what I want to kind of send up as bait, because my only chance is going to be to crack a couple of big heavies into his list. And one of the big issues I have in this list is I don't have a Naga. And the idea was I have Fiona who's got a Naga. I was going to keep a Naga out of this list because I just was going to try to get other points elsewhere, and it's probably a mistake. I do have the objective. That's why this Carnivean is over by the objective, so I can give him magic spray. Not the super best solution ever, but at least it's something. Maybe he'll be able to take out some Blackbanes if they come scooping around. So again, the bees wind up being the sacrificial unit. They can get a lot of work done, especially against Revenants if he doesn't take care of them. I realize that he can ignore the terrain and shoot them, but I feel really I've got to give him something to come in at, and if he ignores them, then they can really get some work done. So another thing that's nice about oracles is that you get to put your upkeeps out for free. And so I've got Bracer on Proteus. I'm hoping that will allow him to anchor, at least weather the storm, in order to be a threat. So, and as you know, things in base to base can't be pushed or knocked down. So it's kind of the plan there. I'm going to slipstream my stuff up as far as I can get it. I can kind of threaten this Kraken with the armor-piercing Angel. So I want to make sure that's going to be in a spot where he has to deal with it. You just sit here the entire time scared to death that Goreshade is going to feed on you, get you frozen, and that's going to be the end of the game. So right now, what I'm trying to do in this turn is make it so I don't lose on the start of his turn. So that's why if you're going first, I could just have run all my beasts up, gain as much of the ground of the board as I could. Instead, what I'm having to do is kind of figure out what pieces that he's going to go after. He'll probably ignore my one-winged Afflictor, but he's 6 points, and I had the 6 points left over. So at the time I first made this list, I didn't own 2 units of bees. Now that I own 2 units of bees, that's how I would probably build Abby every time. And really, one of the strategies you want to use with Abby sometimes is to get your heavies out in front of your wasps. And if you do that, they're going to have to commit a lot of things to kill your beasts. And then if it's an infantry list, you can then mulch through all of the stuff that killed your heavies with the bees. And hopefully like 1 or 2 heavies is still around, right? And that can really swing a game in your favor. So right now I am kind of trying to figure out where he can get to running so Abby can be somewhat safe. Whereas I'm trying to make it so that while I'm not going up as far as I can go, I'm trying to make it where he has to decide if he's going to run and try to jam me, or if he's going to be a little more conservative on how he approaches. Really the things that I have that can threaten him are Proteus and my Angel. So I kind of want to keep those guys safe. The Scythean, if he ignores it, can do a lot of work on his infantry. Not that it's going to help if he brings them all back, but really Abby needs to play a short game. The longer this game goes, the worse the odds go for Abby. So it's just a matter of cautiously approaching, enticing him with some pieces while not giving up the pieces that I really care about. and maybe trying to bait the Kraken into coming and attack a beast that he might not kill. So at this point, I finally say, okay, Kraken can get to Proteus, but to do that, he's going to have to commit to sending that guy over here, and the Angel can attack back, and maybe Proteus lives. So that's kind of where the thought process is right there. And now we've got the big decision, and that is, how do we put Abby in a spot where she doesn't die this turn and can threaten him on my turn? Again, this is easy if you go first, a little more difficult if you go second. So we're going to do what we can to keep Abby alive, keep some transfers. I think she's put Carnivean's Animus on herself. And at this point, I think I'm just basically trying to check the math on what is it going to take, how will she survive, depending on where I put her. Because really, if Abby can't get forward, it's just a huge, huge problem with the list. So we're going to tuck her in and hope for the best. Let's see what happens on Iron Lich's turn.
Cryx turn 3. So seeing how my opponent unpacked his army, to me it just seemed quite obvious and natural to try and take out the bees. They're sitting in them right on the other side of the forest. Between all the ghost shot attacks that I have, I'm thinking I can do that without much worry. My opponent is kind of bricked up most of his heavies towards the middle. One thing I gotta be aware of is my opponent does have magic attacks, so I can't line up too many of my Ghost Raiders. As I take a minute to figure out my strategy, I'm also trying to think of where I want everything to go for the next turn. So one thing I know that I need to be aware of is that Abby does extend her beast threat range. So that kind of affects how far I want to be, or how aggressive I want to get for my stuff initially. But while I'm still worrying about the placement of some of the other models, I go ahead and activate using the special character Pistol Wraith, the Hellfire, or the character Pistol Wraith, that shoot a couple of the wasps down. One reason that I do want to get rid of the wasps is I know once they're under the feet, they can get up there in terms of damage output, especially when more than one of them get in onto the same target. So while they won't kill a Kraken, I do think they will do substantial damage to it if one of his heavies were to get there to take out most of Kraken's life. So because I want to use my Rifleman, I just advance all the Revenant from the unit that's on the left flank. Trying not to line up too many of them because that Carnivean's sitting there on the other side and I don't want him to spray and kill 3 or 4 of them. So I'm trying to limit to just 2, but given that I'm running a swarm army, that's a little hard. But the Riflemen do manage to take out another wasp, leaving me down to 1. So I'm measuring to see if anything else is in range and line of sight. The answer is no, but with there only being 1 wasp left, I'm hoping I've been able to mitigate enough of the damage to where I can take him out with something else on next turn, like a couple pot shots. So one thing I also am thinking about is kind of where my opponent is gonna go with his heavies. I know Proteus is the main assassination piece in this list, but I can't forget about Carnivean because Carnivean is just a beat stick. So then once Kraken activates, I'm pretty happy where the Kraken is. So I just resort to shooting with the Kraken and targeting really the Seraph. One reason that I target Seraph is I'm hoping, I know he's probably got the, I think at the time I thought he had the least amount of life, so I just wanted to damage, take out as much of the beasts as I can. And I did a fairly good shot. Of course the dice did spike in my direction on the last damage roll. But I did knock out enough to make him, at least make my opponent worry about what he's going to do with him. Hopefully my opponent's not going to move him up. Or if he does, it'll be an easy kill. But once the Kraken is done, I just go ahead and flood the center zone with the Ghost Raiders. I'll give my opponent the opportunity to take out a bunch of them. I think I just resided to that. I just need to get stuff across the board and start putting some pressure on my opponent, especially some scenario pressure. Now the Revenant crew, they're mostly just there to get in the way. So I figure if I throw him out far enough, he's not going to be able to get too many things to some of the key pieces of my army, like the Kraken, or my caster, or the pistol race. So then with the last 3-man CRA into the remaining Wasps, just because I have nothing better to do, and I still managed to miss. That's why I need stationary. Then run up Pistol Wraith for my turn 3, because turn 3 I think is when I'm going for the assassination. Most of my stuff should be in range to either assassinate the Warlock or take out most of his army. So at this point I'm starting to try and throw out some juicy tidbits in my army to get him to open up his little brick in the middle.
Alright, Legion turn 2. Alright, so full disclosure, early in Iron Lich's turn, he asked me what Proteus' threat range was, and I said 14 inches. So I factored in everything that I could think of, and then as I'm starting my turn here, at some point you're going to see me line up some dice. Basically just, I forgot to factor in Slipstream. So it was, in my mind, on my turn I wasn't Slipstreaming Proteus, because that wasn't going to be an issue, but as this turns out, this is part of, like, you know, knowing your own army better. I hadn't really ever tried to throw Proteus at his max threat range before. And as I do this, so I think like right now I'm lining him up. He's speed 5. If I proc Alpha Hunter, he gets 3 for charging. He's got 4-inch reach and Slipstream. And all of a sudden, look, I can just barely get to Goreshade 3. So that's part 1. I have a beast, a heavy, that can get to Goreshade. You know, we talked it over. You know, Iron Lich put a lot of stuff in the way, a lot of incorporeal stuff. I don't have magic weapons except for one guy. So trying to engineer an assassinations is going to be no given. On the other hand, what we want to do here is, you know, Abby's not going to win a long game. I can't deal with the Pistol Wraith on the one side, the Hellslinger on the other. Something's going to come freeze Abby. I'm going to get assassinated. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our best to try to get Proteus in on Goreshade and hope that he can do the trick. So let the Rube Goldbrick begin. One of the things I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to proc Alpha Hunter. To do that, he's got some Revenants that are in play up here. I don't really want to try to kill one with a Zot, or whatever you want to call it, a nuke. I want to get him in melee. So she's going to have to come forward. I know I'm going to feat. If she can charge over here and feat and kill a guy, proc Alpha Hunter, that'll start the chain off. Now, she's one of my only magic weapons. So I got to get these Blackbanes out of the way. So we're going to attempt, anyways, to clear some Blackbanes as well when we're proccing Alpha Hunter. So we know we got to charge the Revenant guy and then hopefully have reach to at least one or two of those Blackbanes. So that's kind of why the proxy base is down. I'm still trying to math out in my head what the other best things to do with Abby are. For all intents and purposes, if this series of domino effects doesn't take place, the game's going to be over. So I want to make sure one way or the other I'm maximizing everything I've got going on with Abby. But I think eventually I actually make this charge. I don't think I've done anything else. I know that the Carnivean's been given magic weapons. Oh yes, I'm trying to now kill one of his win conditions with a Blight Bomb, and it just doesn't do the trick. So Forsaken does not kill a Hellslinger with a POW 8. Just keep that in mind. If you were able to play a prolonged game, those Blightbringer, the Blight, whatever it's called, when the Forsaken uses its ability, can be pretty useful. You can get in there and get a whole bunch of infantry or something like that, but this is not that case. So again, measured out, I'm now have slipstreamed up Proteus. I have now, I think, going back to what Abby's going to do. My proxy base has been down long enough for me to get my thoughts right. Especially since we're watching this in fast speed, you can tell this was quite the thought process. I wasn't too worried about clock because I figured this was it. We were either gonna be successful or it was gonna end. So Abby finally charges. I went ahead and slipstreamed the Angel forward. As she did that, kind of give more threats. The Angel can get on the Kraken. If nothing else, if I can't clear out a space to Goreshade, I need to make sure I maximize this turn. And my way to maximize this turn would be to take the Kraken out and try to camp a couple and hope I survive. So Alpha Hunter is procced. He left that Revenant guy in charge range. So all my stuff is +2 mat and +2 speed. Feeding, so it's all going to have reach. It's all going to have flight. And I think at this point I wind up camping quite a bit as I reposition. Just on the idea that, okay, if things don't fall into place, I want to try to give myself another turn. So right now the parts that I'm thinking most about is how do I get these incorporeal models out of the way. I've got 2 magic sprays with my Hellions, and I've got 1 magic spray with the Carnivean. So I'm really doing this pistol wraith behind the house is kind of giving me fits. One of the ways that I think I might try to play this out would be if I can kill the things that can just run to Abby and freezers, then you could probably play a longer game. However, in the position that I've put Abby now, either one of those guys can just run to her, and that's not good. So I've got things like a flare with the Seraph to think about. His gun has flare on it. I want to get that into play if possible. I need to clear stuff out of the way. This is kind of like trying to just create space for my other guys to get in deeper. I've played the Afflictor a little bit now, and he's not necessarily as bad as he looks. Like, he's okay. One of the things that he can do is make those incubi. So it's like, against other lists, not against Cryx, which is obviously undead, it can be pretty good. So I think we were determining right now if the Seraph can land in that little pocket. I think we determined that he could. I can't remember. But then I think I didn't do. We'll see. I'm trying to recall. So here goes the Angel. We want to see how much damage we can get going on the Kraken. And that armor piercing attack on her feet turn is pretty beautiful. So I think we take out almost an entire side on the charge attack. It's depressing as heck when that armor piercing roll is not good, but this wasn't one of those times. So the Angel's kind of going to town on the Kraken. If I can kill the Kraken, then it's going to be easy to get to Goreshade. However, it's a lot to ask the Angel, because after that armor piercing attack, the damage starts to dwindle. But it's taken out more than half the Kraken. The issue at this point is having a landing spot for the Scythean to get in and finish the job. So we've got 2 Hellions. We've got Forsaken doing nothing much really, taking the Fury off. But we've got some options here, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't like all those Blackbane Raiders there. I don't have a whole lot of ways to get rid of them. I have to be kind of lucky on some rolls if I'm going to try to spray them out. But we do have the option here with the Carnivean of doing a pretty decent spray. I can take out the 2, you can't really see Goreshade with the Kraken in the way, but I can take out the 3 incorporeal models that are basically in the way of a landing spot. So really all I need to do with this Hellion is clear the other guy out the way. So that's what we're trying. One thing that I've kind of come around on as I've been playing this game longer and longer is just having a nice widget collection. Having the various length sprays, having the measuring sticks, I think all can just improve and speed up your game, instead of trying to have, like, you know, trying to use the 10-inch spray when you're not doing the 10-inch is just not great. So, but the Carnivean does spray 10. So one Hellion's gone. He's cleared out a Blackbane or 2, which is great, which is what I needed. So now I'm trying to line up this spray with the Carnivean. He's assaulting. We've got a spray. It's going to hit, I believe, the Kraken, a Blackbane, and maybe Goreshade himself. I can't remember. But the main thing is you know, we're going to boost the hit, because anything he hits is going to take serious damage. And not boost hit the things that aren't incorporeal. So boost hit the incorporeal. Don't boost the hit the other ones. I didn't boost the hit the Revenant crew, for example. So, and hopefully you just hit the Kraken, because it's got lower defense, right? That's the idea anyways. So again, we kill another incorporeal model that was in the way. Things are starting to shape up. I think I put a little more damage on the Kraken. I can't remember. But at this point, their Carnivean's done his job, and the objective's done its job. Those are all good things. I boost damage onto the Kraken, and it's still there, but it's not there by much. So if nothing else, at the end of this turn, I'm going to have a dead Kraken and just try to survive Goreshade's feet with transfers. That's really all I can do. But at this point, there's a landing space for Proteus. He's going to come in and with 4-inch reach, drag Mr. Shade back to us. So the path is cleared. The dominoes have fallen. It's now time to send in the guy that can hopefully take care of business for us. I'd never played with Proteus until I started playing with Abby, and he is by far one of my favorite Legion beasts. First of all, he's wicked cool looking. He's got that whole Cthulhu thing going on. He is durable, which is kind of rare for Legion beasts. He does have threat range that is much higher than most melee beasts. And I've never used his Animus. I keep thinking someday I will. But if I were maybe to have put the Animus onto Abby and reposition herself forward or something like that, if you're going for an end game, like, there's just different things you can do. But he's interesting and multifaceted. I kind of like him. Probably harkens back to my Troll Bloods playing, because he's durable and hits hard in melee. He makes me believe that he's kind of like Maul, but he's not. We have also, I wish I could have shown you guys the power of the bees. Iron Lich did a really good job taking them out. I kind of forgot to use the bee I had left to clear things, but here comes Proteus. He got so excited he jumped right off his base. So there you go. So now he's gonna go back onto his base. The main thing is I have to hit with the tentacle, right? I have to hit the drag. So if we hit the drag, we pull him forward. There's the pull, and now Goreshade's in range of a whole bunch of attacks. So it's a 1, 2, 3. I think 7 or 8 attacks. So it's at this point it's start swinging, hoping that he hadn't camped enough to survive. So I've got a couple of camps gone. I got a good roll on that damage. In the future, I'll try to roll my dice closer to the camera, guys. I apologize for that. But there he goes. Proteus is able to take care of the day, and it was a good game. I wish I would have not had the misstate of the threat range. But thanks for watching.
So, just thinking about how the game unfolded, I think in one of the fatal flaws of the list, or one of the fatal flaws I encountered was built into the list before the game even started. Most of my experiences were that Goreshade doesn't need an arc node. A lot of the times, arc node would just get killed off or would just sit there and do nothing. So this configuration of the list got rid of the arc node to help me make space for some more Riflemen. In this particular matchup, I could have used the arc node. If I had the arc node, I probably could have positioned my caster a little differently than I did. One reason I was trying to get my caster up the board was so that on the assassination run, after Goreshade pops his feet and freezes Abby, he'd be able to throw a few siphon bolts at her to steal some fury and thus reduce her transfers. But in this case, it didn't work out the way I planned, and I am now going to try to reconfigure the list to figure out a way to get an arc node back in there.